Hey guys and girls, welcome back. Okay, so we're going to start building the sort of complex bass line, but obviously, like I said, in the last lesson, we're going to start very simply. We're just going to start with the melody itself, and it's just a very, very simple 4-bar note progression, not even any chords in there, so you really don't even need any music theory, you don't even need to use chord pads in Cubase. It's really just a case of sort of messing around with the different notes. But first of all, I just want to copy across this lot. So I'm just going to highlight it and hit Control D 3 times just to copy it across. So we've got a 4-bar section of our track, and obviously drag the loop region out as well. So I just need to grab a sound to use. Now you could potentially use anything, but obviously on this particular track, I've got my sounds sort of already decided. And again, it's a sound from our Club Tools 1 sample pack in synth shots and leads. And we're going for lead 03 high. And just so you know, you can affect the volume of the playback of the audition down here in the audition window if you need to. I'm just going to right click, create sampler track, and I'm just going to draw in a 4-bar segment on our sampler track and just go into it. Oh, actually first, of course, need to do the turning down bit so it doesn't totally do our heads in. So at the moment it's on no loop mode, and that's what you want. You don't want to hit the one-shot button. You don't want to do that on this sort of sound. On drums it's fine, you can have it on that if you want to, but it will play the entire sound each time you hit one of the notes. Obviously this is quite a long sound, so we don't want that. We just want it on normal non-one-shot mode. Very rarely will you ever want it on fixed pitch. Normally you want at least the control of being able to play something at a different pitch, certainly with a playable instrument, and even with kicks and snares and all that sort of stuff, you'll still want to have it on fixed pitch. Reverse, obviously you can reverse the sound if you want to. If you did that and you've got a gap at the end, then obviously you'd have to just set the start point a little bit in, so when you press play, it starts from there rather than starting right at the back. We don't want it on reverse, that's fine. And then monophonic mode, which just means it will play a single note at a time, as opposed to polyphonic, where you can play sort of 3 notes or whatever at a time. So you can play chords in polyphonic mode. And transfer instruments. So if you click on that, you get a couple of options. So you can transfer this sound to Groove Agent if you wanted to. Obviously that's going to be more useful if it's a drum, but it's just another way of getting things into Groove Agent. Now all of the playable sounds that are in our sample pack, in the Club Tools 1 sample pack, are all in the root note of C, so they all just work as soon as you drag them into the Cubase sampler. They're not like many other sample packs, which you'll get notes which are in E, you'll get some in A and some in G and all over the place, and it makes it a bit of a pain to actually put them into a sampler because you have to then change the root note of it. So you can do that here. If, say one of these notes said it was in E, then you'd drag it into the sampler, you'd go to here and you'd just change the root note to E, or of course you can just drag that there, so you can just drag that to whatever note and then it will play normally. Otherwise, if you put a note that's A into the sampler and start playing it, it's all going to be at the wrong pitch, or what you play will be at the wrong pitch. So you just need to change the root note so the sampler knows exactly what the root note of that sample is. But like I say, with our sample pack, you don't have to worry about that. It's all in C, so it's really nice and easy to use. Now that's just a brief look at the sort of main functions up here. We're going to be looking, well, pitch is pretty self-explanatory anyway. If you want to change it up or down in pitch, then obviously we can use this knob. You can fine adjust. Glide will let you glide from one note to the next, so a continuous pitch bend basically from one note to the next. And the amp, well, I'm sure I don't need to explain that to you. But with the amp, obviously you have got the envelope shaper, which we're going to get into in a bit, but at the moment it's not really worth explaining, but later on it will become actually necessary to mess with that. And we will be going into those settings, but we'll go through that at that time. So we've got our 4-bar loop here. Let's just go into our MIDI for the lead and start programming it in. Now, like I said, you don't really need any musical knowledge or any music theory knowledge to be able to program just a very simple 4-bar single note progression. So if you do want to know more about how to program chord progressions and really awesome melodies, then check out our Music Theory for Electronic Producers course, because it's just dedicated to helping people who have literally no experience of creating chord progressions, no music theory knowledge, and then just literally showing you the absolute basics, just enough so you can easily program your own chord progressions and melodies from that, and then then make all sorts of musical bits from those initial first steps. So anyway, in this one we don't need that. We're just going to draw in. Let's just draw in our first note. And I think when I first actually made this melody, it was literally just a case of just messing around. In fact, I made this a long time ago, well over 10 years ago. I've just come back to it for this particular tutorial just because it was a really fun idea that I had, and even got released actually on what was our own record label at the time, Dirty Tracks. But anyway, so it was just literally a case of messing around. So there's no music theory knowledge needed to program that, I can attest. And then we just finish on an E. So actually, if you did want to look at this in a music theory way, it sort of resolves properly by having this last note at the end. That would be a fourth, I believe, in if you're using this scale. It could have happened in many different ways, just, you know, trying different notes out and stuff like that, but that's eventually how I came to that particular melody, or very simple melody. So now we've got that, let's have a look at how we're going to go about chopping it up. So all we do is we just keep exactly the same melody here. In fact, I'll tell you what, let's just make a copy of that. So I've closed that window. I'm just going to drag that, copy that to one side, holding Alt and clicking and dragging it. Just so we got a copy of it, and then we know when we mess with this one, we've always got the original to go back to if we need. Actually, I'll tell you what, we're going to just change this slightly. So we're going to have this come in, that second note come in half a beat earlier. And then the same on that second note there. Sorry, on the fourth note. Just sort of funks it up a little bit, just a bit more interesting than just your standard 4-bar plain progression. So I better get rid of that first one, copy that one across, because that's now our master sort of progression, if you like. And now really it's just a case of experimenting, just playing around with a different rhythm and finding something that works. So let's just go for it. Let's just draw in a few notes. And let's just bring that down actually for that. And then we're going to zoom in a little bit and go for a 16th of a bar so we can... Let's just play that. Obviously, I know how this pattern goes, so I've kind of done all the experimenting and stuff like that, so I can just draw it in. But when you do it yourself in your own tracks, obviously it's just a case of literally just chopping it up and just messing around with it and just finding a rhythm that you think really works. And use your imagination where at all possible. Okay, so let's just have a listen. Okay, so there we go. That's our pattern and it's all chopped up. Now, again, like you've already seen, what we're going to do to this, so we're going to start messing around with that in the next lesson, and we're going to add the first sound, which is going to be that sort of Skrillex-y sound that we're going to get out of Hallion. And just a very tiny bit of housekeeping right now. I want to change the color of this just so it's a bit more separated from the drums, which are obviously all yellow, and we can just sort of keep on top of that as we go through. So there's a couple of ways of doing this in Cubase. You can either select your track, have it highlighted here, and then go to projects and bring up colorize selected tracks. And then you can choose any color that you like from this palette. And you couldn't do this when Cubase 10 first came out, but they've now brought it back in, thankfully. So you can hold down Option or Alt on your keyboard, click here, and then you get the color palette as well. So you can just select a different color, and we just have our leads. In fact, let's just make that a sort of pinky red, and that will be our lead color. So I hope that was helpful for you. In the next lesson, we're going to start actually looking at going in here and sort of muting all these sounds and starting to add some sort of bass sounds, a Skrillex sound, like I said, and start using these chops that we've made to start making that really mad, crazy, chopped up bassline sound. So I hope that was helpful for you. Thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you loved it, and I'll see you guys and girls in the next one. Thanks for watching.